Morning. Welcome to week 9 overview in Remote Sensing 1 Winter Term 2020. Just a real quick overview this week. Last week, as you know, we took a look at hyperspectral imaging where, rather than having 7, 10, 11, 12 channels, discrete channels, we may have hundreds of continuous channels all the way across the visible and infrared spectrum. And this is something that's available now. It's been around for some time, actually. And it's taking place. And it's taking place not just here on Earth with Hyperion and other hyperspectral sensors, but also in planetary imaging. And so there's a number of other projects where hyperspectral imaging is being used on Mars and other kinds of imaging as well, both LiDAR and other active and passive sensors from orbiting vehicles in Mars or at Mars. So that was week 8, and in week 9 we're going to have just kind of a brief well, it's not that brief actually, but I think an interesting presentation and relatively contemporary, but contemporary from an old geezer's viewpoint. And it's kind of an old school, new school look at terrain data. And so terrain data, we've had terrain data, digital data for terrain since really it's been commonly available since the late 1970s. And, early on we were taking terrain data from maps and images that some of them actually dated back into the very early, actually the late 19th century and the early 20th century. It's hard to believe. But now we have very different ways of collecting terrain data and using terrain data for different analytical purposes. And these involve both active and passive sensors. And so do take a look at this presentation on terrain data, old school and new school. That's for this week. And then next week, in week 10, our final week of this winter term, we have some just a kind of a quick look at where are we now with remote sensing, and where are we as class now with remote sensing, and also some final project presentation, final project preparation going on, and some resources and some hints and tips on things you can do as you're working on your final projects. Also, our quiz 2 will be next week. It's actually a week from this Friday on March 13th, and so you can find that link under contents in the quizzes, and that will be available on March 13th as an online quiz. And so if you're having any questions or problems, or you just want to talk about your final project, contact me. In office hours or outside of office hours. I'm happy to speak with folks using Zoom. It's been working out really well. I've had some great conversations with folks, as the term has gone along, and I'm looking forward to some more cool chats with you guys here. Here just finishing up this winter term.